the point that the lives of the guys standing next to me were literally in danger.
That voice here, the Bowe Bergdahl, on his podcast Serial, explaining why he left his post in Afghanistan. Now, Bergdahl, he walked off the base, theoretically to walk 18 miles to another base to issue problems with command where he was stationed, but in the interim captured by the Taliban and then held captive for 5 years. The White House traded 5 Gitmo detainees to get his release. He's now facing a court-martial for desertion and misconduct, and that could lead to a life sentence. Interesting here, Shelley, in that there was a ton of man-hour expended, and people even on the missions ran into the enemy and even lost their lives as a consequence. Moreover, in trying the case, even the prosecution at the time expressed, leniency, given that he was prisoner of war for 4 years under horrific conditions at the hands of the Taliban. The thinking was he was, basically he got punishment for his actions. After all that, commanding officer over there, in effect, overruled whatever the court was going to do and saying, nope, you could be up for life in prison. Where is justice here? It's a hard thing to do thousands of miles away, but there's precedent, too, you got to worry about when you figure out what to do when you levy it.
Well, I'm slightly cynical about the role of politics in this decision, and I can only suspect that after the recommendation was made that not to go the court-martial route, that I'm concerned there were political considerations about taking a tougher line. I mean, he obviously put other soldiers at risk. Soldiers lost their lives. He was viewed as a traitor by his colleagues. This is a very, very difficult judgment call. I just am concerned that there were political, in the context of the world we're living in right now, in the middle of a presidential election, I don't know if politics didn't play a part.
What do you guys think?
Well, when you're in the military, or even when you're a police officer, when you engage in misconduct, you put your fellow police officers and soldiers at risk. No less than he did. And if you think of Abu Ghraib, when you're there torturing people, you think that put the entire United States military much more at risk. So when you look at that, you don't have a similar, I agree with Shelley 100%, you don't have a similar backlash with Lindsey England and people like that. So we really need to remove the political considerations. And it brings you right back to Judge Lippman. You got to get to a point where there's fairness, where you have the courage, because again, for him to say what he said for the last several years, very vocally, and even before that, takes courage. And you need people who are not fearful of any political repercussion.
Do you think 4 years of the Taliban should be time served? They should be looking at additional punishment?
I don't know that it should be time served, but it shouldn't. Life imprisonment should not be a consideration.
He's facing life imprisonment. Right. And here's the thing, and we've spoken about this before. There's a lot of other things why they accepted him in. I mean, he had issues before. There's responsibility to go around.
Watch that at the Coast Guard.
Right. If you take out the political considerations, though, you have to be careful not to conflate mitigating circumstances, which go to sentence, things that should militate against a life sentence, with guilt or innocence. I mean, you're just not allowed to leave your post, to go to another post, to complain about something, and then have that result in how many officers losing their lives or putting their lives in danger, looking for you.
Yeah, for me, and I've disagreed with Andrews and others on this, this is a volunteered armed services. You swear to uphold an oath. No one made you go in. And when you do that, even if you didn't intend to put other people's lives at risk and everything else attendant to that, that has to carry some weight here. Life in prison, no. But you know what?
It doesn't mean he gets
my
it.
sympathy ends to a certain degree for him. But, okay, I want to get to this last topic on the other side of the break, and that is we'll look at the highest court in the land. And the affirmative action case is causing a lot of controversy, in part here because of what one justice had to say in a comparison he made. The people are saying, not that guy, but the guy to his right.